We cannot make progress alone as individuals. That just doesn't work anymore.
History has shown us that amazing things happen when women get together. The Magazine Club, this docu-series, provides an opportunity to spark that.
In the Magazine Club, I was able to feel with you and the other women what full, unfiltered, unblocked expression, what that felt like.
And what makes me different, what makes me other, is actually what makes me spectacular.
Women do not lack the confidence. They do not lack the education. They do not lack the lived experience.
Every day, we need to think about how we are creating better space for women to have voice, because it is critical for our future.
If you are a woman, cis, trans, or non-binary, and you tend to enter conversations to be right, the Magazine Club is probably not for you. If you seek to enter conversations to be curious, we welcome you with open arms.
Practice makes things possible. This is what the Magazine Club provides.
I'm making a move. Study long, study wrong. Ain't nothing gonna happen on its own. I'm making a move. Don't need no hickeys for this song. I got joy all through my soul. I'm making a move. Get up, get out. Mr. Sun is shining on me. I'm making a move. Got my lucky charms, time to move along. Yeah, I'm making a move. I'm making a move.
The Magazine Club is just such a beautiful piece of the suppression to expression movement, where the Magazine Club is about the support and the community that women need. It is a sacred space for women, unapologetically a sacred space for women, and we can nurture and build out that community with technology.
To tell everyone that you need diversity on a board is not enough, but also understand the difference between filling those positions and tokenism and authentic expression. That's the big missing nugget that we're bringing. It totally falls flat without the expression. It's a shell without the expression. So whether we mandate the shell or you put the shell together because you want it to look a certain way, it's still a shell unless all the people participating know and are trained and have the opportunity to practice
Yes.
authentic expression.
Who is Alyssa?
Alyssa.
We need to talk about Alyssa.
We need to talk about Alyssa.
Yeah. We would not have met each other had it not been for Alyssa.
That's true.
Alyssa is our friend who handpicked a group of 6 women for the very first Magazine Club. Our coming together happened during a time when most of the networking events or growth-oriented programs designed for women, they fell flat.
So for Alyssa, that created an if it doesn't exist, build it mindset. And she invited us to co-create it with her. That's how Jen and I met.
In the Magazine Club, I was able to feel with you and the other women what full, unfiltered, unblocked expression, what that felt like, and to be respected and appreciated and valued for that.
I remember that. It was that little thing in the back of a magazine, like a tiny little article, right?
It was an article about ectopic pregnancy. And at the time, I think it was 6 months after my first pregnancy, which was an ectopic pregnancy. And I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to show up other than fine. And this article about ectopic pregnancy gave me a space to practice speaking about something
that was deeply
entrenched. And the magic of the tool of the Magazine Club was once I did that, Another woman who was a part of the magazine club was able to express her journey with miscarriages and infertility that none of us knew nothing about. And it was profound.
In the original magazine club, I was able to hone my ability to speak well, think critically, and I saw that practice flow over into my professional life. I saw myself be more responded to at the boardroom table. It was really cool. The magazine club, in its original form, gave that group of women who were practically strangers a safe place to have really cerebral, challenging, and polarizing conversations anchored in magazine content and journalism every month.
However, as the months went by, my own experience began to evolve beyond great conversation. Jen and I were never able to predict burnout or the impact of systemic suppression in our own professional and personal lives. But it was those events and all of our experiences years later that helped us truly understand the magnitude of the magazine club practice.
It was the summer of 2021 that we decided to push past our what if, trust our calling, and share the gift of the magazine club with the world. If we don't try, if we don't attempt to see how other women will engage with our idea, we'll never understand the potential transformational impact of the magazine club.
When we were given the stage through this documentary, we both thought, this is our chance.
Most of us would want to be a part of a world where everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed and reach their full potential, where women can tap into their power and can co-create and collaborate with one another.
Who I am and what makes me different, what makes me other, is actually what makes me spectacular. And it has created for me not only a journey into expression, into authentic expression, but a fierce accountability to create a society in which every single human being, regardless of their stripe, feels like they are celebrated for everything that makes them other.
The magazine club is the world's first unlearning platform and community designed by women for women to help them rekindle their relationship with their authentic expression.
Each month, we select a magazine anchored in exceptional journalism to deliberate and explore, ultimately recreating the space where women tend to abandon their deep opinions, ideas, and perspectives. Instead, we've designed a safer space where women can repair and evolve their relationship with full self-expression.
We reference the magazine club as an unlearning platform because women do not lack the confidence. They do not lack the education. They do not lack the lived experience. And yet, when we think about critical, important conversations today, women are still only participating in those conversations at 2/3 the rate of their male peers.
We cannot be passive people in the room. Every day, we need to think about how we are creating better space for women to have voice, because it is critical for our future.
Even in situations where we are meant to be supporting one another, we aren't creating the conditions for the candid sharing of the really difficult experiences.
When women are systemically oppressed, it is impossible to be in a place of possibility, of hope, of creativity, of optimism, of options. We miss out. We miss out collectively. All of us miss out on the gifts that women could be bringing that would better all of us. The ripple effects of that are generational, are so significant. And so where can we begin to invite and solve for these challenges? Where can we move from scarcity to abundance? Where can we move from perfectionism and individuality to collective community and collaboration, these kinds of communities, these kinds of conversations can begin to invite and to begin to transform or start anew systems that are designed on these kind of principles.
One of the questions that I asked all the women that I talked to more casually than like as a part of the script was, where do you have the space to practice expressing your innermost authentic thoughts and opinions on anything, on any topic? Like a lot
That's a potent question, because how many people can't even list home or their marriage or their partnership, can't even list those spaces as a safe place.
So often enough, I would get my own innovative ideas, perspectives, or opinions. My better not reflex would be triggered. And because of that pattern, my stress response was also triggered in my body, which means, and even talking about the better not reflex right now, my hands are getting sweaty. This is how real it is. So what this means is that you all of a sudden have these enormous physical barriers associated with your own stress response. Mine is sweaty hands. Other women experience feeling flushed, inability to really access higher level thinking like creativity. And so then you just convince yourself that it's better to just not say that thing.
We decided to pilot the magazine club on this series because we're fighting against the better not reflex. One of the parts of the better not reflex is focused on perfectionism. If it's not perfect, I better not say it. And we are pushing past that, and we're being vulnerable with our imperfect idea.
If we listen to that better not reflex, if we listen to that what if, the magazine club isn't going to go anywhere.
Our brains don't know the difference between fear that is rooted in safety and fear that is rooted in discomfort. And so we code to safety. And so I was scared to say something. And was it because I was unsafe, or was it because I was uncomfortable?
How do you feel after you are prey to the better not voice? What do you experience?
Feelings.
After
All
the feelings, it's true.
Last year, as a part of our own foundational research for the magazine club, Jen and I had the opportunity to speak to just an incredible group of diverse women. And the commentary that we received back from these women were, I am just realizing now, after speaking with you, Jen and Dani, how guilty I felt, how hard on myself I was when it's all of this encoding and conditioning and this really strong better not reflex that has made it almost impossible for me to push past it. It's like ironclad walls.
How do we break down those walls?
There are places and spaces in the world where one can start breaking down these walls. Think about Toastmasters, for example. They don't promise that you're gonna be an amazing speaker overnight by reading one of the manuals. They don't promise that you're never going to be nervous, but the whole organization is set up around practice. You practice together with a group of people, and over time, you hone the skill.
And similar to nerves and the relationship that nerves has with public speaking, the magazine club is helping you understand and overcome your better not reflex.
Practice makes things possible. This is what the magazine club provides.
Let's talk about the women themselves, the entrepreneurs with the ideas. The forum naturally offers you unique insight into what these women are experiencing. What is stopping these women, or at least blocking them, getting in their way of being able to trust their ideas, in being able to see the value in their ideas and being able to express their ideas?
What we hear from women entrepreneurs is the fear that they are not ready or not enough of something, and that they have to have everything figured out before they begin, and that they'll have to figure that out alone.
My better not reflex definitely comes out in forms of just being quiet. Like it's just, it's easier to not say anything. It's easier not to be vulnerable. It's easier not to put yourself out there. It's easier just to be and just not to have your say. But in the end, it's only detrimental to yourself.
I would describe my better not reflex is something I was and have been living with since I was tiny and just didn't have the language around it. So the better not say, the better not do, or the better do in order to just achieve and achieve. And so the more I can see the better not reflex, that little voice, the more I can make a choice. And I can sit in choice to respond or not respond, but it's not automatic.
If you had asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said, I don't think I have a better not reflex. The more that I thought about it, and as we've started to dig into this practice, I've started to realize that there are things that I filter. There's a better not reflex there. I don't want to offend anyone. Or, oh, I don't know if I love how that would make me sound, so I'm going to say it this other way. Or, I don't know that I know enough about that. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't want to sound like an idiot, so I'm just going to not. It just becomes so much a part of you that you don't really think about it. And so actually paying attention to that has been fascinating.
My better not reflex doesn't stop me from starting. It asks me to stop before I'm ready. I feel like through a lot of parts of my life, I've been misunderstood, whether it's because I'm neurodivergent or something else makes it so that folks sometimes tend to hear half of what I have to say.
I think my better not reflex currently for me, I'm almost perceiving it as a protection. Something inside of me that's telling me that I shouldn't do something. It might not always be the right reflex or the right thing in the moment, but I'm starting to understand its role and its function in my life and trying to accept it. And I think that's the only way that I can transform it into being something that turns into a voice of empowerment.
If you really look closely and listen in spaces that have power, whether that's in the House of Commons or in boardrooms, or like even in family environments, men still take up a lot of space and have that power, and that's by design from the patriarchy. We tend to think about this in business, but it could be within one's family. It can be within one's relationship. And it's heartbreaking. We speak about this because there has been so much progress for women, and I think such a mainstreaming of discussions around gender. Yet, if we look at the data and we really pay attention, there's still a lot of work, and we have to call that out.
Am I invisible? Does anyone see me? Ooh, I feel icky because I keep stuffing down the stuff that I really need to contribute and say.
But I always like taking a look at power specifically, and then also asking, okay, well, what's that like for an Indigenous woman? What's that like for a Black non-binary person? What's that like for a working class older Asian woman? And then you start getting a clearer picture, and it becomes even harder for some women to be able to speak up because of what they're risking in doing so.
One of the goals for all of you to embrace and own and hold yourself accountable for, too, is to create a space in which Jennifer can push herself to say something about a specific topic she might not say. Or Fatima, instead of saying 90% of the thing, she's actually going to say 100% of the thing and not leave that little nugget of her full expression behind, because that nugget is actually the most critical bit of what she's trying to express.
We do have the opportunity to start pulling apart our conditioning, asking questions to ourselves. What is the origin of this belief that I have? Kick the tires a little bit. Be curious.
How would you express this before your title, before the world, before your job, before life got a hold of you? That's what it is that we're asking you to joyfully reconnect with.
The power of conversation is about people coming together and talking to each other, listening, building off of each other. And we definitely need more of that right now.
Let's say you had an incredible weekend, you spent time in nature, you did all of the things that filled your cup, and you were in a conversation where your better not reflex was triggered, and all of a sudden it's like, no, you know what? I'm going for it. On the other side of that going for it and pushing through your better not reflex, there are two outcomes. One is having a validating experience in which your body already knows and is conditioned that on the other side of your expression, there's more trauma. In the realm of the magazine club, and what is so important with this brave space is that month after month after month, your body goes through an unlearning process and a recognition that on the other side of my full authentic expression, I'm celebrated. I'm respected as this authentic version of myself. I'm encouraged to say more about this thing that I couldn't possibly say more about in most other environments. That is positive corrective experience. And it helps your body rebuild the very real neurological pathways that have been built up in you since the age of 3 to 5.
What happens is that your body starts to learn, nothing bad happened. I can keep doing this, and over time, that learning becomes completely integrated in who you are. It doesn't mean that the better not reflex goes away.
No.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away.
But every time it rears its ugly head or voice, you can recognize it and you can tell yourself,
go for it.
It's important to speak from the heart. And I think that truth always has power, whether people connect with it and relate to it, whether it upsets people and shakes things up. And what worries me is when people aren't able to be true to themselves in how they live and how they express themselves. That is not fully living. And so many people have to do that because they don't feel safe, or they don't have the tools, or they have tried to put themselves out there and there have been dangerous consequences. Not only do we need to encourage women and the intersectionality of women, whether someone's LGBTQ2+, or working class, or a newcomer, or an older woman, to speak up, we also need to create the environment and support so when people are brave in a moment and say something that might be unpopular, that we say, thank you for sharing that. The stuff we really need to hear is super scary for the person saying it, and likely will create tension for those hearing it. That's where the work is.
I think it's so important to have these positive corrective experiences because we're in worlds and in systems that are designed against them, and we're not designed for us to thrive in. So unless we have these experiences, we will keep butting up against the negative ones. And we all need wins. We need to see that there's possibility and opportunity.
Without positive corrective experience, it's going to be really hard for women to access their innermost authentic expression and creativity.
We cannot make progress alone as individuals. That just doesn't work anymore. We need community to reflect back to us what's really going on. We need community to hold us accountable. We need community to grow.
Community, the people that you surround yourself with, how you express yourself, your stories, your trauma, your experiences, how you make sense of the world. Sharing that with others is so healing and so important.
what we have experienced is that when women get surrounded with a community of other women entrepreneurs who've been there, done that, but also are in the same space that they are, they feel that validation then. It's not only that they got the education or the information or the person and the investor to then talk to. It's really that deeper emotional experience of being validated, of being seen, heard, understood, what we know humans need, and being in that brave and safe space for that. It's that magic combination.
If you've noticed, especially for this pilot group, we've been very intentional in trying to bring together a group of women who are unique and different and lots of lived experiences in the room.
So when I was first invited to join the magazine club pilot, I went back and forth quite a bit. And I think, like so many of us, I was dealing with a little bit of like imposter syndrome, a little bit of like, oh, that's probably not for me. And I'm already tearing up talking about this. But through the pandemic, it's been very difficult to find connection. And most of my interactions with people has been through interacting with work, to the point where many of my friendships have just kind of dissipated.
And so the more often and regularly you can put yourself in a community environment where your body slowly but surely starts to learn, it's positive, it's safe. On the other side of my expression, only then can you start to access the most creative parts of who you are. And that's self-actualization in real life.
I joined this pilot to continue on my journey of self-reflection, and I believe the power of the conversation is the power of our leadership. And when I was hearing about the pilot and the magazine club and the vision, and it was about setting the table for those conversations to bring about change in the world and change for myself.
When Dani and I had a conversation about the magazine club pilot, I could just see her face lighting up as she was talking about what the plan was to uncover and dig into and solve for women. And it just neatly wrapped up so many of the conversations I've had with so many women over the course of my career, so much of what I've grappled with and wished that I had answers for. So it just felt like I had to say yes.
Connected knowing tells us that you learn more about yourself. You bring your ideas, perspectives, and opinions into focus by temporarily suspending your own judgments, preconceived notions, and trying on somebody else's lived experience for size. And the most important thing about this is that it removes ever needing to be right about anything within a conversation. If there's one thing that shuts down a brave space, it's entering a conversation to be right instead of entering a conversation to be curious.
When you co-create, there's friction. There has to be friction. Friction creates better stuff. If you're going to survive through that friction and the hardship, and if you're going to find a way to create conversations that can stretch across class, across race, across ability, across age, and other differentiating factors, you have to have a common cause that is shared and compelling enough for you to get through that crucible together and make progress. It's a blessing, and I wish that kind of partnership or community on every woman.
What is the power of respectfully disagreeing?
What I have found is someone with a strong, loud voice is when I'm in conversation with someone that is respectful, but we're disagreeing, or again, we're just hearing each other out. I don't change my mind in that moment. Wow, that's a great point. I am changing my mind and my opinion right now. Rather, seeds are planted and I'm introduced to a different perspective. And then maybe a week or a month or a year later, I think, wow, yeah, I've really come to understand that. Or if we can better understand each other and again, divides that exists. I think that gets us a place to understanding and being open to learning more. I'm sincerely curious because if you come from a place of curiosity, I think all the parties involved in the conversation can leave and continue that conversation in other places and learn more and find out, what that larger story is.
If you are a woman, cis, trans, or non-binary, and you tend to enter conversations to be right, the magazine club is probably not for you. If you seek to enter conversations to be curious, we welcome you with open arms.
The reason that I accepted the invitation to be a part of the magazine club pilot was basically to embrace a new experience. I learn a lot through experiences, and I had a really hard time saying no to something that brought together brilliant women and provided me an opportunity to potentially learn something about myself and others that I don't already know.
I've learned that it's really important to not only get your own voice out there, but to really make sure you're hearing from everyone at the table. So I've really worked on listening more and stepping back and asking other people, hey, what do you think? And inviting people in.
When we unlearn in community, through practice, anything is possible.
What I always try to say and try to parlay is just give it a minute of a shot. Just show up for one thing. Show up for one thing. One Zoom, one conversation, one moment of that courage, that bravery, and prepare to be blown away. Like, just give it a shot. Just show up. Just show up for that. And then let the energy, let the community hold you.
Every time you bring together the correct mix of voices, you are tipping the balance of power. And there's research to show a committed minority of 25% can change what is socially acceptable in that community. That is powerful.
I think that the most important thing for all of us as women here is to surround ourselves with a great support network. And the best advice that I've ever been given is to surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up. They're going to make you better than you were yesterday. And that's something that I've really thought hard about in my life and something that I try and practice. And so the only reason that I am here today doing this is because I put that work into my network and I put my work into surrounding myself with incredible women like you.
We've had this groundswell of support and understanding. So many people are experiencing the stuff that we're experiencing. And a really brilliant business coach asked us a question. I want to ask you this question. What do you want women to feel when they watch this series about the magazine club?
This thing that we're doing is really hard, and it's challenged us each in ways that I couldn't have accounted for until we literally got in action of piloting an idea that we've asked what if about for 4 years. And so the hope is that if we can showcase the vulnerability here and the messiness and the imperfection and the beautiful rawness of this idea that we want to test and pilot to the world, that it would encourage other women to do the same.
I'm making a move. Study long, study wrong. Ain't nothing gonna happen on its own. I'm making a move. Don't need no hickeys for this song. I got joy all through my soul. I'm making a move. Get up, get out. Mr. Sun is shining on me.